Welcome to the Heroes of Reality podcast, a podcast about the game of life and the hero's journey we all experience. Let's jump in with our host, Dylan Watkins, as he introduces today's guest.
What up, young adventurers? Dylan here. And on today's podcast, I have Julie Smithson. Her personal mission is to inspire and educate people to think, act in a socially, economically, and environmentally responsible way. It is through all these lenses as the co-founder of the MetaVRse, one of the world's leading virtual augmented mixed reality consulting and product development companies. Julie is leading her teams through project development for multiple industries, changing the way that we educate and design spatially through the implementation of immersive technology with the MetaVRse game engine. Also inspired to promote gender equality, advocacy, and inspiration. Julie is the board chair for XR Women, a global community of women working in XR. So without any further delay, I'd like to welcome Julie. Hey-o.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Dylan.
Of course. Thanks for being on the show. I'm excited to have you here and chat with you all things Metaverse. Super fun.
It's a great name, right?
That's oddly topical for the time being, and where we're headed with everything, which is really cool. And I'd first like to start out by just learning just a little bit about your journey of like, how'd you get into the Metaverse? Like, can you give me a little bit of your origin story?
Sure. So I guess everybody has the where did you start from? What did you go to school for story? And mine was way back when I went into hotel management, but that's not where I am today. About 11 years ago, my husband and partner, we actually started and created the emulator. And if you don't know what that is, it's a see-through touchscreen DJ controller. And that was kind of my entry point into interactive technology. And we actually built the interface for it and the hardware for it. And we sold a bunch of them around the world to amazing DJs.
Wow. I think we lost the beat for a second. I'm not too sure what happened there. Julie, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I am.
The challenges of going live, for some reason, it cut out for a beat. And last I heard, you made the emulator and sold it to a whole bunch of DJs from around the world. If you want to pick up where you left off, please continue.
Sure. So that was where we had our gateway into immersive technology and learning all about the software and, of course, how people interacted with technology as well. So that was kind of from 2010 until 2014. And then right after that, we started kind of took that deeper step into learning more about virtual reality and mixed reality, augmented reality. And that's when we created MetaVRse Virtual Reality Productions. And we became a production house, basically trying different proof of concepts of everything from an AR portal to a VR photo booth. That was one of our bigger projects that we did some great work on. And so that's kind of, and here we are 6 years later, deeper than ever and in multiple different technologies. So
100%. I think it's awesome. It's so funny. Actually, I spent years in the hotel business. My family's all in the hotel business. And that's what I got into before I jumped into entrepreneurship and all that jazz, which is a really interesting place to kind of jump from, because the hotel business, they do have their own reality of people coming in, staying in. You create an environment. You're trying to create a culture and an identity and people. And do you feel like there's been any ways that the hotel experience, hotel management has served you in creating the Metaverse company?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about serving other people. And, in some countries, you have to go and join the army to be, to have debt to your country and that sort of thing. I feel like everybody should be in the hospitality industry to learn how to communicate, with others and serve others. There's such great skill sets that are learned within that industry from multiple different perspectives. So absolutely, yes, I've carried everything with me.
Yeah, the hospitality industry, you really learn to be of service to people, and you really learn how to handle those situations where there's conflict and you have to manage expectations and, limited resources. So That's it's an interesting path, and I rarely hear that path, so that's why I was like, oh, it's similar.
Yeah,
What
and
about?
that's kind of where it's taken me on the journey of producing events and working with the client and being very detail oriented when it comes to producing technology projects, and that's exactly what I do today. So lifting all of those skill sets into my day to day as a production manager is a
Yeah.
hospitality role too.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. So like day-to-day roles, production manager, Metaverse. Can you talk to just like how do you like what does a typical day of yours look like?
I don't know if anything's typical
Okay.
anymore. There's
Yeah,
always
sure.
something that comes out from left field. I do have an amazing team right now that we've scaled quite incredibly over such a short period of time due to some business that we've secured. So I have project manager, product manager. I have a 3D artist team. And then, of course, I have sales and marketing. So my role as I have kind of two roles, chief administration officer as well as chief operations officer. And as co-founder, I kind of bring the team together. I run all the meetings, make sure I kind of know what's going on in all the different pieces. But coordinating these projects is my main role of making sure that what the client is requiring, what their needs analysis is, what their OKRs, their objectives, key results, they're translated into terms of satisfaction at the contractual level with these very high level business needs and requirements. So it's a very intense position right now as we roll through I'm learning the same day as you're learning. So that's a little bit about what I do.
That's great. That's great. In terms of I heard that some of the positions. What about design? Is there someone that facilitates the design process?
So that's a really challenging thing right now because nobody really knows what's the best UX and UI for a training module on a machine. And even when it comes to marketing, when you think about that same question, what is the best UX and UI? And then you start thinking about the real estate on a mobile device that we're building these experiences into. Nobody really has that answer. So we have to work with a client on a few ideas. The storyboard is so important in that process of understanding the configurations. Everything's built around configurations. So you have to educate the client on, what happens if you have a configuration that turns something on or off, or red to blue, or spins it, or flips it, or animates it, and trying to build that story in your client's thoughts so that they can then bring their brand to it and their idea of what they want. So right now we're a part of that story. We're a part of establishing that with the client and there's a lot of hand holding and we learn together and we always admit in every call, that we're learning together, and the analogy is we're building that plane as we're flying it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that is you're one, I think it's great you're doing storyboards. The storyboard is the way kind of those align those mental models, right? Versus trying to build a thing, realizing they don't like a thing because the communication from what's in their head to just speaking the words, it's not as powerful as a storyboard. So it's a very powerful process.
Yeah. Well, even the storyboard is a different thought process from a 3-dimensional level. And this kind of goes back to our roots of education and trying to help people understand spatial design now. Everything we've ever learned before was 2D. Everything from papers, books, computers are 2D. And now you're trying to make a design that's 3-dimensional. And that's part of spatial computing. So taking that step back from virtual reality and augmented reality, the core of it is 3D. 3D models and assets and how they behave and animate, and then the ability of having different perspectives in that space. And that thought process has never been taught to us before.
Yeah, well, the core difference between 3D and virtual reality is the user's experience, right? Like you can play Doom on a computer in 3D, but it's not the same thing as embodied running around there holding a chainsaw, whatever.
Very much so.
What's going on? So that it just adds that nuance of the situation. What was like your like magic moment in VR? Did you have a mind blowing moment, like a oh my gosh, this is incredible, to kind of shift you into this area? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I remember it. It was just, it was February of 2020, and I was in the Engage space for the Educators in VR conference that was hosted by Daniel Devosky Bryant and Laurel Van Fossen. And there was a week-long conference of just teaching people about stuff in VR and how education was changing. And my husband and partner and I were sitting on a couch in our avatars being interviewed by Daniel. And we were sitting on the moon in a conference center. And at the end of our interview, because we were on stage, at the end of the interview, Daniel came over to me with his avatar and he high-fived me and shook my hand. And Daniel was in the UK.
Yeah.
And the feeling of vibration that I got after spending that hour with Daniel and all the people in the audience and my husband on the side of me, feeling that vibration of connection between myself and Daniel was that, wow, that was, like, who cares that we were on the moon? Who cares that we were in front of everybody? But that actual touch that we could feel in that space together was a really incredible moment to realize the power of that technology.
Yeah. And then exactly right there is what I was mentioning is the fact that it wasn't necessarily being in a 3D space. It was the interaction and that social connection you made while you high-five somebody.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a 3D world. It's not a model. It's not that. It was you interacting with somebody else and giving them a high five inside that space. It is not a typical design patterns that you build out when you're laying out the groundworks for doing, a storyboard. Then he's going to high five them. And then this thing happens. It's not the same. So that's awesome. So how did that shift, like what your actions and the next steps that you took and ultimately like the direction of the company?
Sure. So, that was a community that we were always a part of. And, today I still go and visit friends or sometimes events, in these different spaces. Metaverse, the journey that we took after that is in June of 2020, we launched our 3D web game engine, the MetaVRse game engine, which is a code optional editing program to deploy interactive and immersive experiences directly to the web without an app. So we are a game engine, very similar to Unreal Engine or to Unity, those types of game engines. Metaverse is its own game engine. So continuing that journey, from Mars, I guess, from the moon or wherever we were, into the game engine, it's been about education, right? Yeah. It's a continuing journey of education and realizing that even through our engine and teaching people how to use it comes back to that. We need to teach 3D spatial design and how the elements of textures with technology and animations and all of these digital components that, long avoided by some are now integrated into multiple different ways of experiencing these technologies that are replacing processes and training elements or marketing strategies, shopping experiences. So our engine offers that no code or low code solution that invites everybody to be a part of that creation process.
Sure. Yeah. And it's funny, whenever you're, as you're describing to me, it's one of the very few technologies when you go to describe it, often sounds like you're describing a dream to somebody. It's like I was in the moon and then this happened and these things. It's super fun. And so you were talking about, so it's a game engine, and then it allows for people to, you said low code or no code. So do you have some sort of like WYSIWYG kind of
editor? Yeah, we have an editor.
An authoring tool that allows you to kind of design it out and lay out the elements and then deploy it and then deploys to the web using like 3GS or 3GS, 3GL. I can't remember what it's
WebGL.
WebGL. Thank you. Thank you. And so then people can get into it. And then if they want to make like edits on the system or additional things, they can then use some sort of additional modified code system
It's not even. You just go back into the editor, you basically make those changes, publish right away, and it becomes live right away. So there's no waiting for app process, right?
That's awesome.
That's the game changer in WebXR.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then, and so it publishes to the web. Does it also publish to then headsets? Can they use it? Can you go in with a headset to
not yet. It is in our development timeline, and it was 3D web on mobile was our first business. Priority in timelines. There's 7 billion 3D enabled devices around the world, so we're going for the majority of what everybody has.
Whenever anybody makes a feature request, it's one sentence, 6 months of development. It's like that. So I 100% get that, and it makes a lot of sense. Can you talk to me just a little bit about your personal mission through to inspire and educate through socially, economically, and environmentally responsible ways? Can you talk to me a little bit about that, and then how that actually is, how that shapes your day-to-day interactions?
Sure. So I guess going back to about 2014, my daughter, she was 9 years old at the time. And again, my husband and I, we've had several companies. We've been entrepreneurs for a long time. But when my daughter was 9, she came home from a coding entrepreneur camp and said, she made a comment about my feet. She said, "Mom, you have ugly tan lines. Why don't they make sandals that have hearts on them or something, so you can have a heart-shaped tan line instead?" And I said, "Well, they just don't make them."
That's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so then she said, okay, and she ended up designing them. We produced them. She created her own company. She was the youngest CEO for a particular time when she was 10 years old in Canada. We produced over 2,000 pairs of shoes. She went to Las Vegas shoe shows. We sold them in stores for a bit, and did a bunch of TV shows. She did a fundraiser for them, and she ended up producing these shoes. So through that story of my daughter becoming an entrepreneur, we learned a lot about what she, as in her generation, needed to do as we saw this technology evolving and quickly shaping the future of how we were going to live and work, and what the future skill sets were going to need to be, and what they weren't teaching in school as well, right? So we started to come up with this concept of Unlimited Awesome Academy, where people would learn perseverance and mindfulness and all the things that make up a good feeling, and giving back to the community, and being able to shape their ideas into projects and things like that. So really helping that entrepreneurship journey with our daughter, and creating that program. So it's been in the works as far as trying to build a curriculum around it, but we have a framework for it. Integrating the technology into the academy is kind of that next phase, and we're almost there as we're starting to shift into how we need to change education to teach the skill sets that are going to be required to have jobs that aren't replaced by AI and robots. That you need these creativity skills that they don't teach as much in schools as they should, to be able to deploy those in a way with all of the technology that's out there.
That's awesome. So just so I understand the timeline, when did she start the shoe company? How long
when she was 9. When she was 9.
How old is she now?
So she's 17 on Saturday.
Got it. Oh, man. Teenager. Yeah, wow. She can drive a car. She's becoming an adult.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. It's great. And you know what? Out of that experience, we don't do it anymore. It's something that she stopped it a while ago. She wanted to get back to her, her friends in her school. And it was a time where she was on TV quite a bit because of what she was doing. And she had business meetings, and she kind of missed a bit of school because of it. She was on this entrepreneurship journey. So, so we have quite a couple of pairs still in the garage as far as stock goes, but she has learned about entrepreneurship. And she also experiences very much our business as we run our business, obviously from our home over the last year. And beyond that, she's learned a lot of entrepreneurship skills within our family.
That's awesome. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's crazy. I was at my best friend's house yesterday, who I work with, and I got to hold his 8-day-old baby in my hands. It was like this, about this big, and that baby had like locked on eyes to the mom. She was just like staring in the eyes. It was just like almost you could feel like this super tight connection. And it was amazing. It was very like, there's like completely dependent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And connected. And to think that at some point that baby is gonna develop an identity and separate, and then go off and date boys and drive a car and go off and do their own thing. And it's an incredible like transition to watch that path from there all the way to what you're talking about right now, which is amazing, kind of like a business. But how do you balance out? So you and your husband work together, right? You guys, the business
Correct.
together, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance out the family life and the relationships, and then because a lot of people say you should never be with someone, your significant other, in business. And that, by the way, my fiance, I'm in business with her too, so I'm asking from personal curiosity.
Sure.
How do you balance that out? How do you balance out a family life? How do you make those decisions? What does that look like?
Sure. So my husband and I have worked together for just over 20 years. So most of our married life, we've been working together too. So it's not easy, but it has been a journey. I say that we've figured it out. We know when to turn it off, when to turn it on, when to talk about certain things, when to talk about certain things in front of the kids. They're older now. So I've got 2 girls. They're older now. So at this point, they hear mostly everything. They know everything about our journey of being entrepreneurs, the different businesses, the good, the bad, the ugly, the everything. So, we're a pretty close family in that respect. How do I balance everything? I do walk my dog about 3 times a day, 2 times a day at least. And that's I have to do that just to get out of the house, disconnect, as we all know, even if you're in your house. Now my house is my work. So I'm always present. Nature is my solitude. I live near Lake Ontario, so only down the road I do venture there too. It's about making sure I recharge, and when it's time to do that, then I definitely do. And when it comes to marriage, some days it's like, okay, you stay on that side of the house, I'll be over here, or you just read each other.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh, I know what kind of mood you're in, or hey, let's go. And yes, we do spend a lot of time together, but there's always a boundary, right?
Sure.
There's always personal time.
Well, yeah, and there's even less when you work together and you
very true.
play together and all that stuff. And just things what I've noticed, when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, it's terrible, because you have all of your eggs are in one basket.
That's very true. That's very true. And we're both co-founders of this growing team, and we're scaling very quickly. So yeah, there are daily stresses, and we just have to talk them out. And luckily, we have a very healthy, strong relationship that we know how to communicate with each other now. So it's we're in a good place.
That's awesome. What so you say is there any hard and fast rules that you guys developed when you were starting out, or things like that? Like, okay, if this happens, I know to do this or that, or is there any rules of thumbs you would get from someone that is in a position behind you that is coming up and building a business with their significant other?
I think that everybody goes through cycles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women have their cycles just like men have their cycles. And as soon as you can read them and figure them out, they have a pattern. And there's always a week in a month where it sucks, right? Like you just don't feel good and your body's doing its shift or whatever. And if you can time those days where you just know, or that week when you just know, then don't plan anything that's so intense over those days, or, just remember that that time is just not the best time for you guys, and plan for those times separate so that it strengthens the other 3 weeks.
That's cool. That makes sense. Yeah. So like look for the bad patterns, understand, don't push while you're in the bad pattern.
Yeah.
And then just kind of just like wait for the timing to kind of get back in.
Yeah. And don't push on the triggers, right? Like when you know that something upsets them or makes them emotional or anything like that, try and stay away from those conversations. And that's one of the challenging things, because, I'm dealing with a lot of things at my desk, and, being able to go and tell him about something that happened in my day, I have to be careful how I say that, or else he might get upset, or if it's something that he doesn't like, or, if it's challenging me, then it becomes a challenge to him because he's feeling it through me. So anyways, that's the reality.
No, it's real, and it's passing energy. If you're all like, I've always noticed, like if you're all like sunshine and butterflies and you don't talk about that, it's like, okay, you're hiding something. Just like there's something, but it's really people get in fights, people get in arguments, but that's life. Like that's the whole piece of it. And so, I think it's great, and thank you for sharing that. I'll reflect on that as we go through this.
Sure.
So looking at like virtual reality, XR technologies, the game engines, all that stuff, like what excites you about the future? Like what excites you about this technology? Is there anything that like comes to your minds of like hopes and dreams with with how this technology can be used?
Sure. I think, I've been exposed to all the different technologies, from VR to AR and the glasses and all sorts of things. And I still think that we're a ways from VR being so mainstream that everybody's popping that on their head. It's not, it shouldn't be introduced that way. It should be, one-off 1 hours here and there to meet with people or to understand something, to comprehend something. But VR to me, is not something that you want to go into a room and just be in VR all the time. It's a short-term experience thing. And then you come back and you do your work, and, whatever that is. What I think I'm most excited about is seeing how education is going to change, because it needed to. And COVID really threw that into everybody's faces of, education needs to change, people. It's got to go this way, or, because that's the way the future is going. And I know myself, I'm dealing with enterprise companies who are developing these, using our technology, or using these technologies, and they need skill sets now to start making more. And our education system isn't even close to preparing these kids for coming out of school. So, I feel it for my kids, my 17-year-old who's going to be graduating next year into, whatever that is. Luckily she's got a good head on her shoulders. She'll figure that out. But, thinking about how education needs to change, it is. And in the backbones, I can see all the things kind of starting to happen when it comes to, just approaches on education, and using the different platforms, collaboration platforms, trying to figure out the soft skill sets that need to be taught, to make sure that the immersive technologies have that benefit of people being able to communicate inside these technologies, and really honing in on those soft skills. So I think I'm most excited about seeing education change, and then empowering kids with technology so they can become creative. And that's what we need most of all, is for these kids to graduate knowing that their creative minds matter, and it can be a part of any process that's out there, and in the industry. We need creative now, because it's all about the user design and interface when it comes to training or a marketing experience. Everywhere you're at, it's all about the attention economy now. The attention economy, and trying to take those 10 seconds from this person before they move on to the next, right? So the creative process becomes so important in the future of the skill sets that are out there.
Yeah, so the attention economy, which you're talking about, is primarily with marketing, like eyeballs online, things like that. It's like, are you able to hold the attention and create that? And is that what you mean? Like, so like attention economy is around So what's the economy of that? Is it because you're marketing, you have more eyeballs create is a natural wealth behind it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the statistics and the analytics that are behind that now, whether it's heat maps or it's decision making, all of that will be read by that experience.
How is the attention economy altered going into virtual reality and XR technologies? Like, what is the evolution that the attention economy takes by going through those mediums?
Well, this is where the best practices and the conglomerate of marketing spam could happen, and where are those best practices, and making sure that you're not spammed by signage and flashing this and links here and there and there. That's towards a dystopian future that nobody really wants to figure out how they're going to make it, because nobody wants it.
Yeah. Well, Facebook wants it. So they definitely want it. I think recently they made an announcement that they're looking to do ads inside of the VR experience, which sounds pretty dystopian, painful to go through it. And I know that recently Facebook said they're going to be shifting away to being more of a Metaverse company than a social media company. It's one of their intentions. Let me ask you a question. On that note, how would you recommend or suppose people market to people in virtual reality without that spammy taste?
I think, first of all, it depends on the event. It depends on why are they coming to you, if it's a concert, or is it a training, or is it a marketing experience? People want experiences. Even when it comes to giving my niece a birthday present, instead of giving her money, I bought her outfits for her avatars in Fortnite, and all of her friends got the same avatar, right? And they got to play a game together wearing all the same avatar outfits. And in that respect, it's an experience. And it's the same thing with everything else. It's just, we're going to start to see more concerts and things that people can do with other people. So if you can create an immersive experience that, brings people together for a window of time, give them a good experience of seeing somebody else in that experience at the same time. That's meaningful, because it doesn't have to be the person in the same room with them. They can invite somebody from around the world to join them in that same space.
Yeah. It's so funny. As you said that, I have a comment that's just dropped through the feed here that I don't know if this person's asking a question or if they're literally spamming us while we're talking about spamming activities, which is pretty funny. TVIRK, here, I'll drop it in just of the sheer interest. So apparently TIVRKZIL1215, solid handle, says, want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and views on bigfollows.com. So would you consider this to be an example of spamming activities or adding to an experience? What lessons can we take from this gift that we've been given of this comment? Is it?
I think where the user experience is going to be able to control that, first of all, is if there's a nice little X in the top corner to close that out, or a blocking spam blocker or something like that. From the perspective of a marketer, I think, again, it comes with a takeaway. It comes with that memorable experience of creating something, whether they can share a photo of them in that experience. A sharing ability is a very powerful thing, whether they share it in Instagram or they share an email to their boss to say what they did. Being able to share something, that's a key component. And, selfies are the best, of course, because they're in them. But if they can share what they're doing, that's your modus operandi, because you can find out how many shares that you have.
Yeah. Selfies. Yeah. And with augmented reality, there's a couple of primary, like, real value add use cases, like, collaboration and data overlays and things like that. But one of the best ones is the filters, like the Facebook filters, the TikTok filters, all these different filters that they have, because it really takes you and you get to play with yourself. And humans are inherently selfish.
Sure.
We like seeing us, and we like seeing photos of us, and we like sharing photos of us. And at the same way you feel like it's a piece of yourself. Like then that's there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But so if you can help someone enhance themselves, and give them an experience that enhances themselves, that's the best way.
That's
So
right.
maybe if TVIRKZRL 1215 can have that as a possible lesson, is how can they turn that into more of an experience that can help the people share more of themselves in a way that
Yeah,
feels
or just
good.
even having a travel portal, right? So augmented reality can do a whole bunch of different things, not just about the person. You can open up a travel portal now and move into another world, or see Easter egg type scavenger hunt things. It's all about gaming too. That's another big.
What's your favorite thing when it comes to augmented reality? Are the things that you use that you find to be fun or valuable or insightful or helpful? Or how do you use augmented reality in your life and world besides producing it for other people?
So face filter fun, I think everybody does it. And my kids and I, back and forth and trying out different face filters and stuff. I think, and measuring, I've done that before. I've, measured a wall. If there's a couple of, if you're looking to see if there's enough space for something, then those types of, applications are really useful. Other than that, just, odd games and things like that, when you can start to see the animations, take hold in your world. And if there's something that you need to catch or whatever, then we have fun with that.
Yeah, it's a balance between work and play. So on your day to day, I mean, being an entrepreneur and a mother and a mentor to an entrepreneur and all the things that you go on, you probably face a lot of difficulties and challenges along the way. How do you armor up for the day? How do you keep yourself sane as you balance all these
question.
things? Yeah, it is. Feel free to take small bites of it or expand upon it.
Sure.
But
breathing is first, and I don't mean just regular breathing. I think, whenever I do feel stressed, and I've had a couple of moments in the last couple of weeks. I'm going through a lot of development with the projects that I'm working on, and there's times where I just go outside and breathe, and it's a meditational breathe. It's like, okay, I got to get more oxygen to my brain to think clearly and calm down and, not get caught up in the stressed moment, so that I can think clearly to a decision. That's, that to me is the only way to kind of overcome the overwhelming, exponential growth that we're all going through right now.
Yeah, it can sometimes feel like we're on a rocket ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I often or like a shooting star. And I often think like people like look at the shooting stars, like say they look at you or someone else, like, oh, that looks awesome to be a shooting star. But then from your perspective, you're traveling 3,000 miles through space on fire. So
nobody hears the screams.
Yeah, you're right. Nobody hears you screaming in space. So good.
No.
That's so good.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's beautiful. So looking at this and like ultimately, like with everything you're doing, do you have like a holy grail, like a thing that you're seeking, like ultimately with the company and everything else that you're doing? Is there a big vision in game for you that you're like, you want to plant your flag in on top of a mountain?
Yeah, sure. Well, MetaVRse game engine, we are raising money. We're a startup. So, that's one of the things. And, the future of where our game engine is at, we're looking for different opportunities that are out there. So if anybody's interested, please reach out. So that's the, that major goal. But the bigger one is to help people understand more about this technology and trying to translate the education of a lot of what we're doing. So, yeah.
So the big goal is to use the engine to take the education pieces and translate it into the better medium.
Yeah, making spatial computing available for everyone, and that it's not, so that it's not so technically challenging, for somebody coming from a hotel management perspective, right?
I feel you. I really do. Yeah, totally. What do you think is the big dragon that you don't know if you can face, you don't know if you can overcome from this, like from what you're trying to do? Because generally you have this big goal and there's something that's like stopping you from achieving that goal. What do you think that might be?
I think the only thing is just the unknown of how fast things change right now and how many things are changing in the industry, who's buying who. NFTs, for example, all of a sudden a big conversation, but 6 months ago, nobody even knew what the NFT acronym meant. Non-fungible tokens, by the way. So it's the speed at which the information is being thrown at us to understand and comprehend, and then understand how, even right down to chips are changing in that processing power. And then what does that mean for latency issues, on how fast experiences happen? Trying to understand and comprehend all of that is my biggest challenge, is staying on track of that technology and coming onto a podcast like this and not knowing what happened this afternoon. Because the news is coming at us so fast, right?
It does go a mile a minute. So like the real dragon's the unknown, right? How quickly we spin and turn and go quickly. And those NFTs, man, that to me feels like a giant hype train. I don't know, but it just, and maybe people say that about XR technology. Maybe people, but I drank the Kool-Aid on the XR technology a long time ago. So I'm pretty into it. The whole NFT space though, I just, how do you feel about that stuff? And like, what's your take on NFTs? Do you think they're in? Do you think it's really valuable? What do you think?
I think it's, first of all, it's going to jump into the blockchain train, right? It's part of that blockchain train of transparency. And, if you're talking about, depending on which industry you're talking about. So if you're talking about artists who have created something and, they want to make sure that it holds its value and they want to tie their name to it, this is an excellent way for them to be able to hold that value. And I guess I'm still learning, just so you know. I'm still not an expert in this, but I do know that when you sell a painting that somebody has made, and then they go and sell it to somebody else, and they go and sell it to somebody else, that artist only gets paid that once. Right? That's real life right now. NFTs, once you lock an NFT onto that, every time it's sold, that artist can have a little piece of that sale. And why shouldn't they? They created it.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to evolve, and it already has, in so many different ways. And I see, just if you think about it more as a transparency tool to hold something's value, and then how it travels along, and how you see it in this world of ours, and what I call the technosphere.
The technosphere. Awesome. I'm gonna write that one down. I don't think I've heard that one yet. That's cool. And I see them all colliding together. All this technology. It's like, it's not the end. It's just different pieces put together. How do you see all these pieces working together in this, whether utopian or dystopian future? What's your thoughts on like how these technologies blend together into a thing?
Boy, this is a big question. So I guess maybe coming back to our technosphere model, right? We had our biosphere and ecosphere, and now this is our technosphere, and we're all connected. So this technology, like NFTs, will become part of that transaction process within an experience. If you go into a V store, which is another one of the models that we're creating right now, we're going into a V store. And I see you're probably looking to ask me what a V store is.
Yeah. Please follow up.
Okay, it's a virtual store, right?
Okay.
You can go into an experience, whether on a mobile phone or an immersive experience. We're building them right now on the mobile phone, and you can look at products and you can see how much they are, or you can look at art and see how much they are. But there's an NFT technology that's tied to that. So when you buy that, then the NFT goes with you and you put that in your wallet. That will carry with you, and you'll start to have this digital wallet that you'll start to have the ability to make transactions with, whether it be a pair of, something from Prada or it's a Hummer V, whatever it may be. So it'll be linked up with those transactions that you'll be able to have inside these experiences.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of talk about these NFTs and this virtual world and how they all blend together. To me, it always feels a bit like a cult trying to get you to buy into their religion. That's why I constantly like cryptocurrency. And there's certain ones that are valuable inherently, like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Those ones make a lot of sense because it has so much mass. But I always feel like these different NFT people, it's just these little micro cults. And I feel bad. I apologize for anybody out there that has an NFT thing, but that's just the vibe. I get that now they can make the value, but I'm just trying to wrap my head around the value of it. Like with XR technology, I can get it. You can be anywhere, any place, anyone, anytime with all your friends and have a great time together. Like I wrap my head around that, and I can see that the way you put it to me, like the transparency, it being useful, and the people that originally create the art, it's great for the artist. So those two things do inherently make sense to me. I'm just always curious, like how do you build an economy off of something like that? How do you get that to happen? It's an interesting.
I don't have that answer yet, but it comes from communities. It comes from making things available to purchase as well. Right. Yeah. And what people see as valuable. It's a little distorted right now, to be honest with you, but I think it's going to zero in and it'll start to focus on certain industries a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sure it can. I was just curious. It's one of those ones I'm just like, I don't fully understand this. And you're right. Being at the edge of technology, like trying to understand it, it's you feel like you have to, it's part of your job is to know all the technologies, and they do come out really quickly. And so, but talk about a community that is valuable, that is applicable. I want to shift the conversation to women in XR. Let's talk a little bit about that, how you got involved in that. I don't know necessarily if I can join it, but it sounds pretty cool. So I'd love to, can you talk to me just about the women XR and your role in it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So just to clarify, it's XR Women. You can find us on xrwomen.com. That's how you can kind of track us all down. So just under a year ago, so call it, it was about October, November of 2020, a group of women and myself, we got together and we started saying, we need a place to meet each week and, just talk to each other and help each other understand everything that's going on in the ecosystem. And of course, we're under a pandemic and lockdown, and everybody, started to join that. And we formed XR Women. There was 4 of us that co-founded it. Karen Alexander, Sophia Mashasha, and Sarah Klein, and myself. We sat down and we're like, we're going to do this every week. And so we found a home in the Verbella campus with iLearn, the Immersive Learning Research Network, where today we have met every Wednesday from 11:30 a.m. Eastern time until 1:30 p.m. Eastern for 2 hours as avatars in the platform. And we host educational and community sessions. We do speed networking. We talk everything from medical to training to next week. We have an active shooter demonstration preparedness, and it's all related back to XR and all these fantastic women that are doing things in the space. We learn from each other. We're a solid community each week. We're at least 20 women each week or more, which has been an absolute honor to host all these people that every Wednesday, it's like, hey, how's it going? And it's become more than just a meeting. We're all friends because we meet each other every week. And just so you know, allies are welcome. Allies are definitely welcome. Yep. And we do have men that join. And our focus is to inspire and educate and empower women so that they understand the technology and they can go out and do their own thing as well.
I appreciate the invite for allies. That's super cool. It's really nice. I just also feel there's but if you keep it for women, there's probably a lot of safety and the communication changes. I feel like the dialogue probably changes a bit when it's just only women versus like one guy.
Yeah,
Or
sometimes it does. We try not to, and we don't want to alienate men because we want a balanced workforce. We're not looking, all the women that join us every week.
Yeah,
we're not. We just want to find our voice, find our place in the ecosystem. We know we belong there, and we want to work with men. So it's we don't deny anybody to attend.
Super healthy, and I think it's awesome. I really do, and it's I do like the fact that you open the invite. Just respectfully, I feel like it's like there's that safety where you have that energy, and then they all get together. You can talk about things, and it's a powerful thing. But it's cool that you open up. And you're like you're not like inclusion for one doesn't mean hatred of the other. Right.
That's absolutely. And we do have those hard conversations, like you just said, that sometimes we do have women that open up and start talking about certain things because they know there isn't a man there. And there are challenges, everything from pay wages. How do women get respected the same as other men? And that was actually brought up the other week, and nobody could answer right away. And we moved the conversation to a private one. But some of these women are having real challenges of trying to find the balance in their own workforce, and then trying to learn alongside everybody else, right? Yeah. So, but we don't close the community off at all.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so then, so it's every Wednesday at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time in Verbellum.
In Verbella. Yeah, Verbella. Yeah. It's the iLearn campus. The information's on our website. And right now it's just a volunteer organization. We're looking for sponsorships, and if anybody's listening, one of the ways that we would love to is, as women avatars, we talk a lot about the way that we look. Like, we don't have lipstick that we can choose from. We don't have clothes that we can choose from. We only have like 4 outfits that we can play around with. Like, this is where it would be an amazing opportunity, whether it's our organization or any other, for a marketing company to come in and, make a digital T-shirt with their logo that we could proudly wear in our sessions. Yeah. That's just an example of one, sponsorship opportunity that could happen in this new digital world of ours.
That's cool. And it's so funny because, like, just from a guy's perspective, I've got like 8 outfits, and like that's about it. And so like it doesn't pull on my heartstrings, but like I love that I was like, you're right, that is a concern that you would have, and it's completely valid, and there's a huge opportunity, and it's wonderful. So there's someone could step into that and fill that need, because it's real and it's there. What message would you give to, like, say there's like a young girl, it's maybe not your daughter, but someone like your daughter, 17 years old, wants to get into XR technology. What recommendation would you give to her to get into this space? Like, what actions would she take, and what does that look like?
Sure. I've actually had a young girl come and ask me recently, but she was trying to decide whether to go to university, which they didn't offer at the university she wanted to go to anything about immersive technology. So she was trying to decide, do I go to university just for the sake of it? And then, I've got this part-time thing happening over here. I think, first of all, if you're just starting off in the industry, you've got a lot to learn, and join whatever community or follow whatever medium you can to learn every day a little bit about XR, whether it's whatever, VR. Learn all the different mediums, learn, how each industry's that you're interested in, how that industry is starting to use it, because every single industry is using immersive technologies in one form or another, whether they're starting to digitize something or they're doing a full deployment of VR training. There's so many different things going on. So it's find your people. Find those people out there. There's the VRARA Association, and they have weekly meetings in different industries. That's a great community to be a part of. Just follow. There's a lot of blogs and things that are happening. LinkedIn is a great place to learn about XR. There's some fantastic people to follow and books to read. Kathy Hackle, John Bazell just finished writing The Augmented Workforce. That's a great book as well. So I think the first and foremost is just find your community, find something that you can start. And that's why we started XR Women, and we're taking anybody who can get into that platform with us and join us. Even if you don't know anything about XR, just taking that leap into that virtual space is kind of step one, and then we can help you from there. But it is challenging because the education systems don't have these conversations happening in their classrooms yet. Maybe in the college and universities they're starting to, but it's not mainstream, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on that note, I mean, there's ones that you find the communities, learn stuff, connect, find your place and how you fit into it and how to contribute, which all that resonates, with your daughter. And what do you think that she missed out on school because of the kind of the outdated education model? What are the gaps that you felt that she missed out on?
I think, seeing her struggle when it came to science, for example, I think, being able to go in and walk inside a human body because you can put a VR headset on and understand like where all the body parts are. Like that's, obviously that's a far away, but it's an opportunity of understanding something visually and immersively that just takes that comprehension to a whole new level.
Yeah.
And that's what, not necessarily for science, but that whole immersion piece, or, dissecting frogs. My daughter couldn't dissect a frog this year because she couldn't get back into school because they were closed down. VR, you can dissect as many frogs as you want because, there's programs, XR Victory. They've got a program where you can go online and you can dissect a frog, and taking those opportunities of the rare instances or those travel transport times. I think that's the piece I wish my kid could have learned with teachers in the educational system, to take them on those tours. And that's where education is going. But my kids, unfortunately, will miss that just because of where they are in their life. And it's just not going to happen in time.
Yeah. Yeah. It keeps flowing like a river. And like my grandma has never been on the internet, which I think is crazy. She's never been on the internet. She doesn't know what the internet is.
She never needed to.
Never needed to, still doesn't. I don't want her to go online because I don't want her to go to like viruses.com and download everything. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's crazy to think about that. There's just people still around today that have never used the internet, and there's going to be people that still haven't touched any of this XR technology yet. But it's going to get more and more common as we go. What is there any last things you'd like to let people know about before you tell them how they can get a hold of you and find out more about what you do?
If you want to try and learn how to design in 3D or MetaVRse engine, it's free to sign up, and just go to MetaVRse.com and then register for your free account. You can start to design and take a look at how you can create that and publish right to the web. And you've got a link that you can show your friends. Taking that step of learning how to design and use shapes and textures and colors and things to create your own experiences. That's probably the first thing. XR Women, if you want to join, please do. And you can reach out to us. We've got a great couple of sessions coming up, and we've got one about NFTs on the 25th. Maybe you should come.
I might attend. Yeah, I might sign up for that one. That sounds highly educational.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
There you go. Actually, that one is the NFT Oasis, which is going to be in the alt space world. So it's actually a field trip this time. We're going to take it to a different platform. So,
virtual field trip. That's so cool. I love it. And if people want to get a hold of you specifically, how can they reach out to you? How do they find you?
You can email me, Julie, at MetaVRse.com, and MetaVRse is spelled METAVRSE with a capital VR. So
a capital VR. Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it. Julie, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate your time, all your work in the Metaverse and XR Women. So thank you so much. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you in another reality.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Bye now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes of Reality podcast. Check out heroesofreality.com for more episodes. While you're there, you can also take the Heroes quiz to find out what kind of hero you are. Or if you have a great story and want to be on the podcast, tell us why your hero's journey will inspire others. Thank you for listening. See you on the other side.